Hey everyone, Stacey Murphy here, and I have taught thousands of people all over the world how to get the most out of their garden. That means maximizing your harvest while conserving your precious time, energy, and resources. And there is one garden tool that is the secret to doing all of that. It's all about creating a plan. It's about creating a roadmap for the whole season because vegetables, they don't grow overnight, right? So you may have heard me tell this story before. When I started growing food for my community in Brooklyn out of backyards, I knew a bit about gardening from my mom. So I planted a whole bunch of seeds, I grew some awesome vegetables and herbs, and throughout the season I noticed there was still space in the garden to grow more food. So I didn't know how to perfectly time each round of seeds and transplants to take advantage of all of that space, and I knew there had to be a better way. Then a local farmer introduced me to crop planting, and it completely changed my life. Not only did I nearly double my yield the next growing season, but everything was simplified. I knew exactly what to focus on, so I didn't have to spend a lot of time in the garden. So I wanted to share with you why planning ahead, why crop planning is so important. And it's okay if you're not exactly sure what a crop plan is. Think of it like a personalized planting schedule just for your local conditions. It tells you what to plant, when, where, when you're going to harvest it, and it can be so much more for you. Because crop planting, it's not just for farmers. It might just be the best garden tool in your cabinet. So I'm going to share 3 tips to increase your harvest and how crop planting magically does that for you. So the first tip is to be ready with everything when the growing season starts. Your planting beds, any compost you need, any materials you need, any seeds, transplants, etc. You want it ready for that date on the calendar, the average date when your ground thaws, if you're somewhere with a winter. And I see beginners make this mistake over and over. They aren't ready on that date. They wait too long to get their plants in the ground, and they don't take advantage of the full season. The crop plan forces you to mark that date in your calendar so that you're ready to go. And then when that date is written in your calendar, you better believe you're going to get all those things ready to go so that you can get those plants in the ground. Remember, these vegetables, they don't grow overnight, right? So radishes take 28 days to mature, beets 55, pumpkins 90 days or 3 months to mature. So timing really is everything. You don't want to waste a single moment of the season when you could be growing food.
So think about growing some peas. Now, 2 things about peas. One is that the days to maturity are about 50 days. It depends on what kind of variety you grow. And then the other thing is that a pea plant stops producing at a maximum temperature, sometime around 75 degrees Fahrenheit. And so if you're living, let's say, in the Northeast, this is maybe close to what I would grow in Brooklyn, I would want to get my plants in the ground as soon as possible to maximize that yield, because there's a hard stop when sometime around June, end of June, middle of June, it starts to get about 75 degrees and my peas stop growing. So I want to get those in the ground as soon as possible so I can get as many weeks of harvest as possible. So in New York, I might be able to get my plants in the beginning of April. It might be a little bit later, it just depends. And so every week that you wait to plant, you're basically losing 1 less week of harvest. So after that date, wherever it turns 75, you start losing harvest. So let's say I don't plant, here I'm planting on April 1st. Let's say now I wait until April 8th. I just lose 1 week of harvest because it takes that long for my peas to grow to maturity. So every week you wait is 1 week less of peas in the spring. So remember, timing is everything, right?
And one quick note, my first year in Brooklyn growing, I started mid-season. So it's better to start now than not at all. So if it is mid-season where you are, go ahead and start your crop plan anyway. You're going to be so happy that you did, so you can take advantage of the rest of the season. All right, so the second tip is to plan all of your plantings ahead of time. So don't wait until you have space available in the garden to point to and say, hey, what should I plant there next? It's easier than you think to calculate how many days it takes to bring something to maturity and then calculate which plant you're going to put in next. So your second set of plants and your third set of plants. You want to have those seeds and transplants ready to go. That's how you get the most harvest. You make sure there's always something growing in every possible space in your garden. Take arugula, for example. I like a lot of arugula. I like to keep planting arugula over and over throughout the season, so I have lots of it. And my arugula, it takes 42 days or about 6 weeks to mature. So I harvest it on week 6, and then I harvest it again on week 7. I let it grow back, and I let it grow back one last time, and I harvest on week 8. And each time I harvest, I know the amount that I harvest is going to shrink a bit. So by week 8, it's in my best interest to pull out that amount of arugula and just plant the next round. And I have more seed ready to go. So if my growing season is 8 months long, that's about 32 weeks. So I could fit 4 cycles of arugula, since they're each 8 weeks long, into that same place if I time it just right. But if I didn't calculate this ahead of time, there's a chance the last round of arugula wouldn't grow in on time. We'd go into winter, and that would be 25% less harvest just for that one crop. Now, remember, it doesn't have to be the same crop being planted in the same spot again and again. You might grow some peas and then some cucumbers and then back to peas for the fall. So it could be any succession, but you want to plan the whole season. And remember, next year, you just reuse your crop plan. So this really simplifies your life when you have a planned calendar with a short checklist of what you need to do each week, and you can just streamline the process year after year instead of starting from scratch. The third tip is to save money when you buy seeds in bulk. So when you have a plan for the entire season, you can calculate how many seeds and transplants you need. And what you'll find is that the more seeds that you buy of any particular variety, the cheaper they get. And I do multiple plantings of arugula, I already mentioned, and in a 500 square foot space, I may go through 30,000 seeds each year just in arugula, not to mention all the other varieties that I'm going to grow. Keep in mind that for every variety, there are a different number of seeds per pound. But the one thing that stays the same is that the more pounds I purchase at the same time, the cheaper the price is per pound. So for about the same price, I can either buy my arugula seeds for 1 year, or I can buy all my arugula seeds for 2 years. So that's like a 50% cost savings in seeds if I'm willing to buy them in bulk and then save them for the second year. Now, this has saved me so much money on my greens and my shoots because I'm buying seeds for peas and sunflower shoots in bulk, as well as my lettuce, spinach, and arugula. And if you're a gardener who wants to take advantage of bulk prices, maybe you find some neighbors to share those savings with and order in bulk together. Now, I'm not some garden magician. I just happened to work with a really talented organic farmer back in 2009, and I learned how to crop plan, and I've been continually working on it, adding to it, and perfecting it. The result is a system that can be applied successfully year after year. And I've created templates for people around the world so you can adapt this no matter where you live. So if you're ready to maximize your yield while simplifying your weekly garden routine, then your next step is to click the button below and get registered for my crop planning class. I would love to help you enjoy your most abundant harvest yet.